Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus Day, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the very coordinated and well scripted and generously funded media treatment, and it's universally coordinated all across the Western world, the media treatment of crimes committed by sort of illegal aliens, recent migrants, asylum seekers, or just, brown and black activist people or whatever. But as soon as there's a crime committed by some brown person screaming Allahu Akbar or something like that, running around with a machete, or even before you know the color of someone's skin, there's someone running around shouting Allahu Akbar with a machete, stabbing people. Now, you don't need to, it takes no great feat of imagination to work out, what this person is going to look like and, their background. You kind of could know that. But one can't help but notice that the authorities, the narrative controllers that are, again, operating very well scripted, talking point organized, and they instantly jump into action with a centralized arranged script all across the media and all across the narrative and all across the people on social media that are paid to push the narratives. They don't assume who this is. No misinformation here. Don't you put out racist. Don't you behave like Hitler waving a swastika. And straight away they'll go into defensive posture that anyone that assumes that someone's screaming Allahu Akbar and waving a machete in public, what, are you assuming they're a brown person? You fucking Nazi, swastika waving Nazi. That's what. Wait, hey, stop. Well, if you're, you don't want any speculation to be had, why don't you just say who it is and where they're from? What? We're not going to do that to prejudice things, you fucking Nazi. So let's just have a look at that phenomenon. Now, if in the reverse is the case and the alleged perpetrator is white, or particularly if it's a white male, then within minutes of the event occurring, we've got the photograph of the evil white Nazi fascist bigot Hitler male, white supremacist male there, and his address, the street he lives in. I mean, there's not a whole lot that they're going to leave out. The full power of the state and the media machine that is controlled by the globalist controlled state will come out and it'll be maximum blame and shame. The man, where he lives, his family, where he works, when he last took a shit, that's all going to be put out in the thing there to really, really hammer home the point. Whereas the brown and the black perpetrator receives maximum protection by the state. And anyone that points out the brown and black, the proclivity of certain racial groups to run around with machetes stabbing people, anyone who does that is Hitler, swastika waving Hitler. So we can see the doubles, not just a slight blurring of line double standard, but an extreme double standard, which is premeditated, prearranged, organized, and well funded. Where do these people get their money and their scripting from? Because the scripting is immediate and central. They could have prearranged scripts, of course, but given that the script alters to work around, often is scripted to work around the event that's just occurred, then we can assume there's we know there's a centralized scripting body here, and the memo goes out to all the media outlets and in unison, and all the social media influences that they control and pay for, to the government ministers and the government operatives, the politicians. They all get the same memo, and that they all come out with the same talking points and the same positioning. Well, don't just assume that it's, don't engage in misinformation. You Nazis, you bigots, you racists, you white supremacists. So that's the position to take. And I would hope that President Trump and his team will aggressively go after where this central scripting and funding is coming from, and root it out and expose it and cut off that funding. Now there was I'll just go a few, maybe mention a couple of cases. There's one recently where um, the the defence of the brown, well, it's a brown person in this instance. I'll do others. The defence of the brown person was swift and aggressive, and they immediately the entire media machine, everything the globe was controlled, which is all the Western government and in this particular country the media machine. Where it came misinformation, Nazis putting out misinformation. We are the truth tellers, say the liars. We are the truth tellers, they claim. And so the speculation was that this brown person screaming "Allahu Akbar" and waving a machete, that he was a recent migrant, or an asylum seeker, illegal alien, whatever, but it was recent. And not true, you fucking Nazi liars, you fascist, lying, swastika waving liars. He actually, his parents came claiming asylum, falsely it turns out, but claiming asylum from some dirt poor basket case of Islamic Republic. And they arrived, the mother was due to the woman was due to give birth in like 2 or 3 weeks, heavily pregnant, and so gave birth in the British Isles. And therefore, the kid that was born was a British citizen. See, you lying fucks, you Nazis, you misinformation, lie to, and so he was a British citizen and not a recent migrant or again asylum seeker. So so he lives for 20 years in the British Isles. Very frequent trips going back to the Islamic Republic of his genetic origins. Apparently, the parents were fleeing terrible oppression, but the minute they got residency in the British Isles, they were going back for vacations. So, must have been a real dangerous place. Anyway, they got their residency and later became. I don't know if they're still residents, the parents, but the child being born in the British Isles got the citizenship gig. And so now when you start to look at this, you sort of, it doesn't take much examination to see the problem here. These people moved into an ethnic enclave. The parents of this 20-year-old kid that was running around with a machete went into an ethnic enclave, a religious ethnic enclave. So it's Islamic and an ethnic enclave as well. The parents still can't speak a word of English in spite of being in the British Isles for 20 years. The 20-year-old kid or young man also speaks with quite a heavy accent in spite of having lived in the British Isles for 20 years and gone through the school system. He's a frequenter of like mosques and religious places that are considered to be radical in the extreme. His hatred for white society and white people and white culture and Christianity and all this sort of things is also pronounced. And so it's hardly surprising, I guess, to somebody like this who appears to, given if they've got you've got an IQ above 80, I'd be surprised. But it's not surprising, I think, in my view at least, that somebody like that would be susceptible to hitting back against the evil satanic white Christian people and trying to kill them. That wouldn't surprise me. Is it a guaranteed outcome of the sort of upbringing, behaviour, and radicalisation? Maybe not, but is it a highly probable outcome? Well, yeah. And there seems to be quite a few of these people floating around and brought in, illegitimately, in my view, as migrants or asylum seekers or again, whatever, illegals that somehow managed to scam their way to staying. Now, what's more interesting still is, or the two factors that are particularly interesting is, one, that the radicalisation of this person to hate white society and hate Christians. Why would you want any situation like that? I mean, why would you tolerate that? We want lots of people to bring in lots of people into our stable, high trust, prosperous society. We want to bring in people who hate us, absolutely hate us bitterly, and we want them to be running around in the street. We want their radicalisation. We want them to go to radical. No, you don't want that. But somehow they do. There seems to be no effort that I can detect, at least, to stop, prevent, limit this radicalization. Maybe they think the school system would do it, where these kids are going through school and told every day how evil white people are and how bad Christians are by the very white society that's brought them. Maybe that's got something to do with it. Maybe all the NGOs that operate in all across the West that tell them those evil white Nazi fascist Christians, you should hate them, you must hate them, they're all evil and bad. Maybe that's got something to do with it. And these NGOs are generously funded and given, all sorts of tax exemptions and so on. Maybe that's got something to do with it. The media that constantly delivers a barrage of all white people are evil, fascist, Nazi, swastika waving, white supremacist Hitlers. Perhaps that's got something to do with it. So when you sort of look at all of this in aggregation, it's not surprising that these things happen. That low IQ people that sort of, because they're unable to integrate in any meaningful sense and don't want to. Why should they? White people are so fucking evil. Why would you want to integrate into that sort of society? And well, how come white societies are so rich compared? It's because they stole everything from the brown people. That's why. Oh yeah, that's why. So we've got that, but also the very aggressive protection of these people by the globalist controlled establishment. And it's frantic, it's fanatical, it's ideological, obviously, because it makes no sense in any practical terms. But when we look at all that and put that together, there is a vast cabal of white-hating, particularly white males, white-hating ideologies and practices and behaviors out there that is openly, aggressively encouraged and funded, blatantly funded and supported by the wider globalist cabal and their subsets of NGOs. Why would we tolerate this for a minute longer? You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.